Welcome to Alcon's Dailies Total One multifocal workshop. My name is Simon Allen and I'm an optometrist who's recently joined Alcon's professional affairs team. This three-part workshop is an online recorded version of Alcon's multifocal contact lens workshop series that we ran in various locations across Australia and New Zealand earlier this year. We're going to be focusing on presbyopes, the tear film, and how to make multifocal contact lenses work for this growing and valuable patient group while keeping your practice and contact lens business growing over time. In Module 1, you'll learn all about the role that phospholipids play in our tear film and how modern contact lenses promote both comfort and vision by supporting our tear film, particularly in presbyopes, where tear film instability may be more common. Module 2 will guide you on how to quickly and easily fit Alcon's multifocal contact lenses, as well as how to troubleshoot on occasion if required. Several case examples will be reviewed to look at the troubleshooting tips in more detail, so that you'll be equipped to successfully fit a variety of patient types and prescriptions in practice. The third module will look at some market research and some consumer insights that show how the rate of contact lens dropout can significantly impact your practice's turnover and profit over time. And after completing these modules, you'll be well on your way to recommending and successfully fitting the right multifocal contact lenses for the right patients quickly and easily. So, about me. Before joining Alcon, I worked in independent and corporate practices in Australia and the UK, and in my last few years I had great success with multifocal contact lenses. But before we start, I want to let you in on a little secret. I used to be hopeless at fitting multifocal contact lenses. I didn't recommend them, I found them time-consuming, fiddly, and just not worth the effort. But then one day, things changed. I had a long-term patient in her late 60s, let's call her Jane, who I'd previously fit in a modified monovision in a monthly modality, who'd come in complaining of dryness and irritation with her lenses, and that it was impacting on her vision. She could only wear them for around 4 hours before her vision started to blur as the lenses became uncomfortable. She also felt the monovision wasn't working for her anymore, and we just couldn't quite get the balance right between good vision at distance and near without the imbalance making her feel just a bit odd. And as she was one of those patients who was always very price conscious, we decided to move away from contact lenses and we thought we'd update her glasses. Now, she was one of those ladies with a small, fine, delicate bridge and really long eyelashes. So no matter what we tried, no matter what adjustments we made, even including customized bridges, we just couldn't get any frames to sit comfortably on her nose without her eyelashes wiping across the back of the lenses. And that really ended up smearing her vision quite quickly. And this ended up having a significant impact on her vision, and it really only took about 5 minutes of wearing her glasses for this to become an issue. So we found ourselves in a situation where she couldn't wear her contact lenses for really more than 4 hours without them becoming blurry and uncomfortable and her vision starting to drop out. And she couldn't wear her glasses for more than 5 minutes before they became smeary from her eyelashes wiping across them. So, understandably, Jane, she became quite exasperated and frustrated and asked if there were any other options, as this inability to achieve a practical solution for her visual needs, it was really starting to impact on her life. So I'd already been offering Dailies Total One to all my spherical contact lens patients and had found that the vast majority chose Dailies Total One over their previous lenses. So I knew that the unique water gradient material would probably solve her contact lens related dryness and discomfort. And I'd heard that there was also a Dailies Total One multifocal that had come out. Again, I hadn't suggested these as an option for her because she had always been very price conscious and had complained about the cost of her monthly lenses. But at this point, she needed a lens that was going to give her improved comfort and stable vision. So I discussed with her my experience with Daly's Total 1 so far, and also advised her that they were more expensive, but were definitely the best option for her. So she agreed to give them a trial and booked an appointment for a fitting. And it kind of dawned on me then that I really had to make this work for her, as there wasn't really much of an alternative. So I did something I really should have done a while ago. I went back and I read the fitting guide. And I don't mean a quick skim and then file it away with the other 25 fitting guides from the other manufacturers. I mean, I really read it. And I realized that I'd been making lots of mistakes. And in fact, there were some key steps that I was missing, and it all started to make sense. So I ordered the correct trial lenses in, had them ready for her fitting appointment, and then crossed my fingers. When she came in, and she was one of those patients that never stops talking and runs off on tangents. But when I finally managed to get her to put the lenses in, she stopped talking. She had a few blinks, still quiet, and then excitedly said how she just couldn't feel the lenses and that she really didn't care how much they cost. She had to have those lenses. And it was at this point that I realized that I'd been holding a great visual solution back from my patient simply because I thought she couldn't afford it. I'd been making that decision for her without letting her even try the lenses and make that decision for herself. And that really changed my approach and my prescribing habits. So it goes to show we should never prejudge our patient's desire or ability to pay for something that is valuable. Remember, price is only an issue in the absence of value. So I ended up trying Daly's Total 1 multifocal again on another lady later that week with the same result. And I found that they were actually really easy to fit if you just simply follow the fitting guide. So I kept trying them, and my success with multifocal contact lenses went probably from about 5 out of 10 to probably about 9 out of 10 as a result. And by the end of these workshops, you should be able to achieve the same results. So today we're going to run through what our presbyopic patients want and how to meet those needs, how to identify suitable multifocal contact lens patients and really grow your practice. In the second module, we'll look at the nitty-gritty of how to fit the Alcon multifocal design in a really quick and easy way, and then run through some troubleshooting tips and case examples to equip you with the know-how to make multifocal contact lenses an everyday part of your practice. The third and final module will look at some consumer insights and how we can use these to grow our contact lens patient base and keep them happy. So, we tend to think about contact lenses as suitable for our young, active patients, but our presbyopes are still busy, active people, juggling work, kids, and everything else that life throws at us these days. 50 is the new 40 after all. So we should never exclude them from the freedom that contact lenses can provide as an alternative to glasses. And it's not just active presbyopes that contact lenses can help. Whether it's when you're cooking, shopping, or juggling grandkids, everyone has a time when their glasses probably aren't the most convenient option. And don't limit them to younger presbyopes. I have plenty of successful multifocal contact lens wearers wearing Daly's Total 1 multifocal in their late 60s and even 70s. But part of it is just starting the conversation, because most of our presbyopes don't even know that multifocal contact lenses even exist. So mentioning it to your presbyopes at the end of your consultation, when you're wrapping up and running through their options, can really open up a lot of opportunity for part-time wear. Because you'll be surprised at who might jump at the chance to be glasses free every now and then. And this comes back to one of the fundamental issues with contact lenses in Australia and New Zealand. We know that compared to other parts of the world, where say 20% of spectacle wearers also wear contact lenses, in New Zealand it's around 11%, and Australia it's barely touching 5%. And Alcon has looked into why this might be, and one of the reasons is we just don't talk about it. We know that there's a communication breakdown between us as optometrists and our patients. as often we think that if our patients are interested in contact lenses, they'll ask about them. And conversely, our patients think that if they're suitable for contact lenses, we as optometrists will discuss that with them. So there's a huge communication issue here. Because if you get this right, there's a huge opportunity to grow your practice. We know that with the ageing population in Australia, more and more of the patients walking through our doors are presbyopic. We know that they're interested in contact lenses and that they're highly loyal to their optometrist. And that's been my experience as well. They really just don't trust anyone else to get their vision right. And so a great asset to your practice is they'll still need to purchase their glasses, often higher value multifocal glasses. So multifocal contact lens wearers are a great asset to your practice. So how can we get this right? What are the issues that we need to address? We know that our contact lens wearers really start to drop out of lens wear in their 40s and 50s as dry eye and presbyopia increases. So if we can start to address the issues of discomfort and vision, we may be able to help those patients to keep wearing their contact lenses. Now, this study was done in 2010, before Daly's Total 1 was around, and my experience with Daly's Total 1 is that discomfort is almost a non-issue. So if you can get your patients into Daly's Total 1, you're really helping to address the discomfort issue. And by the end of Module 2, you'll know how to fit the Alcon multifocal and can really start to address the vision issue. So over time, we can start to fill in that graph and really grow our contact lens base. So, what do our presbyopes want? What did that patient of mine, Jane, need? They need comfort and vision, but they also need your expertise to help them achieve this. So before we go into the detail, I wanted to show you just what Daly's Total 1 can do for your presbyopes. At the Alcon head office, we have an optometry consulting room set up for training, and in there we have a corneal topographer that allows us to do video topography. So in early April this year, before we rolled out our multifocal contact lens workshops, I wanted to put Daly's Total 1 to the test on my eyes. So in my right eye, I was wearing a silicone hydrogel daily disposable, just standard one, and in my left eye, I was wearing Daly's Total 1. And I'm going to show you how the two lenses dehydrate over 15 seconds of wear between blinks. So, this is the daily disposable silicone hydrogel. You can see that the Myers start to become distorted and blur out, so that lens surface is drying out and the optics of that lens are going to start to be compromised. Now that's important for any contact lens wearer, but for a multifocal wearer, where you're trying to eke out every bit of vision that you can, that may be the difference between success and failure. Now, let's look at Daly's Total 1. So, the video is a little jumpy at the start, so bear with me. Pretty impressive, right? There's almost no change in those Myers at all. So if your patients are looking to you for advice on how to achieve comfort and vision, which lens are you going to fit them with? This one? Or are you going to fit them with Daly's Total 1 and give them clarity and comfort? So, before we look at how Daly's Total 1 can perform like that, let's take a step back and look at the tear film. We know that if we get lipid layer breakup, we get increased aqueous evaporation, which can lead to dryness. But when we think about it, how does our lipid layer spread in that super thin layer over the aqueous? For those of you who add olive oil to the boiling pot of water when you're cooking your pasta at home, you'll know that when you drop that oil into the pan, it doesn't spread in a nice thin, even layer over the water. It beads up and clumps together. So how does our tear film work? How does our lipid layer spread in that super thin layer like it does? And the answer is anionic phospholipids. So these are molecules that are happy in both oil and water, so create a stable interface between the non-polar lipids at the surface and the aqueous underneath, to allow the oil to spread evenly across that surface. So, one example of an anionic phospholipid that occurs naturally in the tear film is what's called phosphatidylcholine. It's bipolar, so it has one end which is made of fatty acid chains and is lipid soluble, and one end which is water soluble. Now, when I joined Alcon, I thought I want to see this in action. If this is just a simple interaction of substances, I want to see it. So I started Googling phosphatidylcholine to see if I could perhaps purchase it from a chemical lab supply company or a pharmacy or something. But it turns out you can buy phosphatidylcholine as a dietary supplement from your local health food store. So I ordered it in, and when I got home after I'd put the kids to bed and cleaned up after dinner, I sat down at my kitchen table and started playing around with some oil, water, and the phosphatidylcholine to see what would happen. Now, well, my wife walked past and she thought I was a big nerd anyway, but this was taking it to a new level of nerdiness. But anyway, I'm going to show you now what happens and how they interact. Okay, so this is our demonstration on how phosphatidylcholine helps oil spread over the surface of water. So in this cup we have some blue food colouring mixed with olive oil, and in this cup we have some blue food colouring mixed with olive oil, but also with phosphatidylcholine. So we're going to demonstrate how they both spread over the surface of the water. So we're going to use the olive oil and food colouring alone to start with. You can see how the oil really clumps together. It doesn't spread evenly across the surface. Let's put a little bit more in there. So now we'll see what happens with the olive oil, food colouring and phosphatidylcholine mix. You can see already that it spreads straight over the surface. You can see the plain olive oil and food colouring is all bunched together, and there's a lot of that water is exposed to the air, which means it's going to dry out and evaporate away much faster than this one here, where the phosphatidylcholine is spread out and the oil is spread out like a nice even layer over the surface, which will really lock in that water and stop it evaporating and reduce that tear breakup time. So this gives us an idea of how our lipid layer stays stable and thin throughout the day, and we have free floating phospholipids in our aqueous that are there to help replenish the phospholipid layer should it deteriorate throughout the day. But what might happen if we put a contact lens in the middle of that aqueous, split it in two, leaving a very thin pre-lens tear film on the anterior surface? Could we be potentially limiting the ability of the tear film to replenish that phosphatidylcholine throughout the day, leading to an unstable lipid layer, faster aqueous evaporation, and a cascade of lens dehydration, dryness, discomfort, and deposits? So, perhaps, and that's what the researchers at Alcon thought too. So when they were developing and designing Daly's Total 1, they designed it so that it would contain phosphatidylcholine that's released from the lens throughout the day, as needed via an osmotic gradient. So let's just have another look at what that process might look like. So this is a stable tear film with the lipid layer, aqueous, and in between the layer of phospholipids, one of these being phosphatidylcholine. Keeping that lipid layer stable, and you can see the free-floating phosphatidylcholine in the aqueous. Now, if that phospholipid layer starts to break down throughout the day, you can see how the free-floating phosphatidylcholine can come in and plug those gaps, replenish that lipid layer and restabilize the lipid layer, which will help our overall tear film stability. Now, this is what happens to our tear film when we put a contact lens on the ocular surface. You can see that a contact lens at 80 to 90 microns dwarfs the tear film. And in comparison, how thin the pre-lens tear film is at around 4 microns. And this really illustrates how important it is that pre-lens tear film, as much as possible, is supported and kept stable. So, going back to looking at our tear film, now with the contact lens on the eye, that destabilized phospholipid layer might not be able to be repaired without access to as much free-floating phosphatidylcholine. And again, that might lead to dryness, dehydration, and potentially deposits over time. However, with Daly's Total 1, because it contains phosphatidylcholine, there is plenty of phosphatidylcholine to be eluted from the lens whenever there's an osmotic gradient. So, that lipid layer is more likely to be kept stable throughout the day. So, not only does Daly's Total 1 have the unique water gradient material, which combines the best aspects of a silicon hydrogel, such as the high DK/T of 156 in the core, with the best aspects of a hydrogel, with the hydrophilic surface gel, where through these incredible brush polymers at the surface, which really attract and bind water, the surface approaches almost 100% water and is almost as soft as a corneal epithelial cell. Now, it also has the ingenious addition of phosphatidylcholine to provide that tear film support. So it's no wonder our patients often describe it as the lens that feels like nothing. And importantly, with this tear film stability and comfort comes clearer optics, which we'll look at a little more closely in a moment. So that's the technology, but how does it stack up in the real world? Well, in 2016, Michaud and Forcier did a study in Canada where they recruited 76 monthly or 2-weekly wearers who were complaining of contact lens discomfort. They were then fitted with Daly's Total 1 or Daly's Aqua Comfort Plus, and they wore each lens for a month at a time. Now what they found was that with Daly's Total 1, the wearers had 3 hours of extra comfortable wear time compared to their habitual lenses. So that means for the majority of our patients who often might start to notice discomfort with their lenses in the mid to late afternoon, but probably tolerate them until they get home, they can happily wear their lenses for 3 extra hours before they even start to notice discomfort. Now, I'm sure we all have lots of patients who work in highly air-conditioned offices and stare at computers all day. I know I do, which can be a pretty challenging environment for contact lens wearers due to the low humidity and of course that reduced blink rate with computer use. So, in 2017, Guillaume did a study where he put Daly's Total 1 to the test in a reduced humidity environment and compared the results to a normal humidity environment. And what he found was that there was no statistically significant difference between them. So, essentially, there is minimal difference in the performance of Daly's Total 1 between normal and low humidity environments. So this means you can confidently prescribe it for your office workers and heavy computer users. Now we talked earlier about how the unique water gradient material and tear film support in Daly's Total 1 enhances comfort and that it also helps with vision. Now, Montez Miko did a study in 2013 looking at the point spread function of different contact lenses throughout the day. So the point spread function is essentially a measure of image quality within an optical system. And it's used to assess the image quality of things such as medical imaging devices or astronomical devices. Essentially, the bigger the point spread function, the more blur there is, kind of like a blur circle. So, what Montez Miko found was that throughout a 12-hour period, the point spread function of all these contact lenses here became more spread out, or in essence more blurry. However, Daly's Total 1 was very stable and hardly changed at all. Now, image quality is important for all contact lens wearers, but for presbyopes and multifocal contact lens wearers with older, drier eyes, it's often the difference between success and failure. So, again, what do our presbyopes want? What did that patient of mine, Jane, need? She needed comfort and vision, And this is absolutely what Daly's Total One provides. Now, let's say this lady comes into your practice and asks if she can wear contact lenses as her glasses are a little frustrating at the gym. How might you describe multifocal contact lenses to her in a way that explains how they work without setting expectations too high? We know that patients drop out due to mismanaged expectations, so it's important to explain the technology in really simple terms and to use positive language such as a reduced dependence on glasses, or you'll be able to do most of your day-to-day tasks. For those patients who complain about having to move their head with their multifocal glasses, you can let them know that it feels quite natural. It's important to try and avoid words like compromise and not perfect, but still set realistic expectations. You could use something like, most of the time you'll be able to see clearly without your glasses. However, if on occasion you need to see very fine detail up close, you may need a low power prescription to make it easier. And this is where it's important to define what success looks like for you and your patient. It doesn't have to mean 6.5 and N4 because not every patient will get there. And it really doesn't have to mean being able to wear the multifocal contact lenses 7 days a week. Success can mean they can wear them on the weekend, or success can mean they can wear them for going out at the night or to the gym. And just as much for us as our patients, it's important to remember that all presbyopic corrections require some sort of adaptation. All the options here have some sort of drawback to them, and yet we don't hesitate to recommend them as frontline vision correction options for our presbyopic patients. Now, we often complain that fitting multifocal contact lenses takes too long, but in reality, any of the options here will need some investment in time. And when you might compare the time taken to take all the measurements and all the adjustments required for accurately fitting multifocal glasses, again with no guarantee of success, multifocal contact lenses are actually an easy option. Now, if we were to think about who are the typical multifocal contact lens wearers, which of these 4 categories do you think they roughly fall into? Now, if you were to say red or yellow, you'd be spot on, even if you don't know what on earth matogaliophobic means. It actually means the fear of glasses. And I'm sure you have plenty of those patients who revile in fear at the thought of ever having to wear glasses. So, those patients are perfect candidates for multifocal contact lenses. But actually, I have plenty of successful multifocal contact lens wearers in all of those categories. If you're starting out trying to fit multifocal contact lenses, market research tells us that the typical multifocal contact lens wearer is female, has a higher income, and is in their 50s. They're those busy, active people who want convenience, they're concerned with their appearance, and they really want to look younger. They also have a higher level of satisfaction with their optometrist, and that's been my experience as well. For me, there's nothing more rewarding than being able to generate loyal, happy patients who shout your name from the rooftops because you've given them amazing multifocal contact lenses when perhaps their previous optometrist didn't even mention them. So, if you're going to start actively looking for ideal targets for fitting multifocal contact lenses, who should you look out for? Well, current contact lens wearers who are just starting to enter presbyopia, especially if they're hyperopic, are ideal candidates. And of course, those matogaliaphobes. There are some patients that will try to overanalyze their vision and complain that they can't see 6.3. I'm sure you all have those patients. So they may be more challenging and may not be an easy fit with multifocals. So here are some other traits you can look for to start with. And then once you have more confidence and success, you can move on to the slightly trickier patients on the right here. So give it a go. Give your presbyopes, and in fact all of your contact lens wearers, what they want: comfort and vision. So give them Daly's Total One. So the next module is going to be focused on how to fit Alcon's multifocal lenses in a really quick and easy way. And remember that if you have any questions or any tricky cases, please don't hesitate to reach out to one of Alcon's team of optometrists by contacting us at professional.affairs@alcon.com.